I want to talk about Mr. Jalen Hurts. Now, I understand that we got some people in our chat room who's probably gonna go on that bullshit "I hate black quarterbacks" thing that's probably gonna come up in the chat in a couple minutes. But I said at the beginning of the season that I want to see more from Jalen Hurts. I thought Jalen Hurts had a great year last year. Led his team to the Super Bowl. He played great in that Super Bowl. It was like one of the Super Bowls that you saw where it wasn't the quarterback's fault that they lost. Kind of reminded me when the Eagles, no, when the Patriots actually lost to the Eagles in 2017, and Tom Brady had like 5 touchdowns. Like, well, it wasn't on that nigga. They just couldn't play no goddamn defense. If you look at him now, he's already got more interceptions than he had last year. Only 7 touchdowns. There's not running as much, and I think a lot of it has to do with maybe the offensive coordinator not being there and things like that. But really, what I want to discuss is, do you think this is something to worry about with Jalen Hurts? They took their first loss last week. With this going forward, and the way that the Jets played him, do you feel like this is something that needs to, that should be concerning if you're the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, no, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I think so because last year was Jalen Hurts' breakout year. You know what I'm saying? The year before, we saw growth and leading the Eagles to the playoffs where they got stomped by the Bucks, and Jalen Hurts looked like he couldn't. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't hit pass. It couldn't hit water out of a boat. So last year was the outlier year. So you want to see a follow up season? I just think it's a natural progression with him, just off the fact that they did lose, you know, their OC. There were moving parts there, and teams adjust. The tape is out there. Everything that they did last year, the tape is out there. But there's definitely a little bit cause for concern. But I think eventually they figure it out. I think they need to incorporate DeAndre Swift a little more into their offense because
Yeah.
he's looking like everything that the Lions thought they had when they drafted him.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, they do need to run the ball a little bit more with him, get that going a little bit more. But the thing that I say, even last year, with as great as he played, and yes, he's a very accurate passer. It's just I didn't even really know until I looked at the numbers. I thought he had way more passing touchdowns than what he had. He only had like 22 passing touchdowns last year, uh, and which was something I feel like people are going to key in on now. The defense is going to be like, okay, we're going to make you throw a little bit more. We're going to see if you can do that consistently. And that's something I feel like Jalen can do because he has a very accurate ball compared to a lot of other quarterbacks. But they need to find a balance, I feel, offensively. And once they get that, I do believe Jalen will be good. But I kind of want to go back to what I think it was Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy said on the Rich Eisen show like a week ago. He said, before people are elite quarterbacks, you got to actually do it 3 years in a row. And we're going to talk later in the show about like who exactly are the elite quarterbacks. But I do think like we put maybe too much dip on our chip when it comes to Jalen Hurts is being an elite QB. How is he going to respond for this? Now he actually has a little bit of adversity, and this is something that the Eagles have not dealt with much. How's he gonna come back from this? But I do think that this is not like a big worry. I think he will be fine because the talent is there, and he has a head coach Nick Sirianni who, unlike certain other coaches we know of, actually like their quarterback and will do things to have to actually make the game easier for Jalen. So I don't feel like it's something that is too concerning, but definitely something I would be paying attention to going forward.
Yeah, you definitely got to pay attention to it. But like you said, it's about seeing him put 2, 3 consecutive really good seasons together. And so I think this is another side effect of when we really want to crown somebody too soon. And again, not saying that Jalen can't do it. It's just a player that we've seen get better every single year since we saw him get benched at Alabama. So we know he puts in the work. So it's a matter, like you said, Scott, how does he respond to it? So major concern, no, but it's obviously something you have to look at because, again, he's turning the ball over more. And that's the issue. It's one thing if, despite the fact that they're still winning. So that's the only reason I say you can't really panic. But when you are turning the ball over, like you said, he has 7 interceptions. And I think he had less turnovers overall last year. So slightly, keep an eye on it, but I don't think it's not the time to hit the panic button.
Yeah, it's not panic time. Just let's keep an eye on it. Another quarterback I want to talk about is quarterback I'm a real big fan of, but I just feel like there's something missing with this guy, and I really just can't put my finger on him. I'm talking about Justin Herbert. that game that we saw on Monday Night Football and the way they lost it to the Cowboys isn't something that's like different if you watched any Charger game really through their entire existence. Even before Justin Herbert was there, they would lose games like that when Phillip Rivers was there. They would even probably, I think they lost games like that when Drew Brees was there for a little bit. So it's overall a Charger thing. But there's something about Justin Herbert that's missing. Like if you look at Justin Herbert's stats, I mean, he's thrown for 1,300 yards already. He's got 9 touchdowns, only 2 picks. Passer rating of 101.7. On paper, those are great numbers. But there's something missing to him where, like, when the game is coming down to the end, as great as he is, it's like he can't finish. Now, I do believe 60 to 70% of this problem is he has a fucking idiot coaching staff. Brandon Staley should be fired. Kellen Moore is not looking like the guy we thought he was when he was in Dallas. They're just having problems with scoring the football, but it's like they go brain dead towards the end. He starts making passes that don't make sense. Do you think it's like, and I hate using this word because it's a real, a debate show topic, but as far as clutch gene and shit like that, but there's something missing from Justin Herbert. What do y'all think it is when you look at what Justin Herbert does and like just his career so far?
I wouldn't say it's something missing. I think that's taking it like a step too far because, like you said, that goes into that whole clutch gene thing, and especially with football being one of the sports where you really are relying on everybody around you. And like I've said this for years, like quarterback is one of those positions. Although, like you said, and we always say, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. But they get, sometimes they get too much praise and too much criticism. So I think in Herbert's case, it's just another young quarterback who's growing and going through those pains of learning how to win and learning how to finish. And like I said, everybody isn't, fortunate enough to be able to just off rip start doing that. I know you had guys like, as much as they shit on him, Matt Ryan, who had, hella fourth quarter comebacks just out the gate and throughout his entire career. And that's something you always saw him do. But with Herbert, I think, like I said, it's just a young quarterback going through those growing pains. So I don't think he's missing anything. It's just a matter of, like you said, some of the decision making, especially with the coaching and putting your team and your quarterback in a position to succeed. Sometimes he has to overcome his coaching staff, and that's always going to be an issue. So I think, as time goes forward, he has all the tools to be, an elite quarterback.
Yeah, that's always going to be an issue and a detriment, especially to a young quarterback. I agree with Dante. I don't think there's anything missing. If there's one thing that's missing, I guess it would just be consistency. He's good for 3 to 4 amazing throws a game, and then as we saw on Monday, he's good for 3 overthrows that you're like, what the fuck, like if you hit those, it tilts the balance of the game in the favor of the Chargers. So he's just a young quarterback growing. I think honestly they need to develop more or invest more into their skill position players. I was never a fan of the Quentin Johnson pick. I thought it should have been Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison. At the very least, they need somebody that can do the opposite of what Keenan Allen does. They need somebody that can get that yak. They need somebody that can get open and break down, and break down the defense, get to the open spot and be able to make plays. So it's just a growing pains. I believe Brandon Staley will be fired this year. Anything short of them winning a playoff game and advancing, I think he'll be fired just because the heat is on him right now. I believe the proof is in the pudding with a lot of questionable calls. I think he honestly left about 5 to 6 wins, in his tenure there on the field and situations. If he would have made the right decision, that could have put the franchise and that team in different predicaments. So Justin Herbert's fine. He's young. He's going through it. It's just right now, this is a league that's starved for great quarterback play, and we're not really getting it. It's Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but he hasn't really been Patrick Mahomes this year, So we're really just starved for great quarterback play, especially the GOATs are gone. Brady's gone. Manning is far gone. What's his name? Ayahuasca boy's down with an Achilles. So it's up to the new generation and to the young guard. And while they're figuring it out and learning on the fly, they are going to make mistakes.